Welcome, Platinum members, to today's webinar on attracting, hiring, training, and keeping the right people on your team so you can go somewhere big and, of course, get there quick. This is part 3 in our Outside Sales Agent Recruiting System webinar series. And today we're going to be discussing protecting your business asset by hiring properly and setting up your new profit center. Now, your new profit center obviously is and will be any agent that you bring on your team. And again, we want to put some emphasis on the word profit, right? For obviously reasons. Many of us have hired salespeople, me and myself included, over the years that have not been profit centers. They've been a liability. We have spent money on bringing them on board. We've spent our time in bringing them on. We've spent money investing in their coaching and training, and we've spent our time investing in coaching and training. The reason I'm saying that our time is equal to money because it is. We can work on anything that we choose to work on when it comes to running and growing our business, right? Everybody has a choice every day that you get up. You pick and choose what you work on. And it seems like that the most effective real estate agents out there, team leaders if you want to call them that, are the ones who make good use of their time picking the right things to work on, right? So, yeah, these agents need to be profit centers. Investing in leads, that costs money, especially marketing. Giving the right leads to the wrong agent, ooh, that's brutal. So let's talk about what we've done so far. Part 1 of this series dealt with setting up your automatic reverse prospecting system, okay, and I thought that was pretty comprehensive. That webinar, as well as the PowerPoint, accompanying PowerPoint for it, is available on the coaching site. Part 2 was all about converting the right people. That will best help you in your present situation, okay? The group interview process, dealing with any objections there, fully explaining what it is you do, your mission statement, your vision, and it's important to get them to buy into what it is you do. If you have to literally chase them down after you do all of that, there's a problem. They're not fully convinced of the value maybe that you have to offer, and there's some other mitigating circumstances. And I think we did a good job during part 2 of running through all of that. Now, today, on part 3, we're going to discuss just making sure that you protect your business. Now, when I say your business asset, this is your business. You're the risk taker. You spend your money, your time. You are the one that suffers if somebody else in your company, in your business, on your team does not do a good job. Okay? Every bit of it is going to come back to you. You're the one that loses income. You're the one that loses the leverage from that customer or that client or that prospect that you could have received, whether it's cash flow, referral, or testimonial, okay, word of mouth. Here's a great example. I had an agent that put a house on the market a few years ago, and you always remember instances like this, and it didn't go well. The seller and the agent seemed to always be fussing at each other, and the property was overvalued to start with. Probably shouldn't have been one that should even been up for sale with our team, but it was just a real struggle. You kind of find out about these things after it's going on, and then the seller decides that they don't want to do business with our company anymore, so they get into a cancellation mode, and it took probably about a week to get the key box off the property. And during that week's time, the agent, who was very busy, had decided that they were going to spend their time working on trying to sell homes and not making time to run across town to pull the lockbox off of this property. And my courier, who spent most of my time running around for me, they were busy too. I had them setting up new properties, and when you're running behind all the time, it's difficult to make time to go and do it. So anyway, it took over a week to get this, and she called me repeatedly during that time. I must have took probably 4 phone calls over the course of a week or more, dealing just with the lockbox issue. And she wanted us to come in and buy her house, and because it hadn't sold yet, and it was just a mess. And you guys know what I'm talking about. We've all had circumstances like that where no matter what you do, it doesn't seem to be right. Well, once that relationship was over, she went to a website called complaints.com. and she spent probably, I don't know, 30 minutes typing as much as she could possibly come up with, complaining about me, Todd Walters and Associates, and rarely even mentioned the agent that she dealt with during this whole process. As a matter of fact, I don't think the email even contained the agent's name. So, you know what? Lesson learned. We have to be very good at making sure we got the right people. So I think we all understand that. So the ramifications of that, an example of what I just gave you, can run really deep. And I had sellers that I would go and meet with that would say, look, I saw this on complaints.com. And I would look at them and say, you know what, if I had read that, I don't even know if I'd be talking to you. If the roles were reversed. If I had read that and you were the agent, Mr. Seller, I don't know if I would have even called you. So the fact that you called me and even had me come out here, I really appreciate that. Now, granted, I went to complaints.com and got some attorneys involved and, and got all that stuff taken down. I think since that company's even out of business now, but it was a mess. It was absolutely a mess. So I want to recommend that we do a really good job here of moving forward, paying very close attention and getting these systems that we're going to discuss today up and running so that we have really good accountability. We're protecting our business, okay, the things that we put our neck out for, okay, and making sure that this agent is a profit center. Okay, great. So have your notepad and pen handy. Let's run through the process. Now, the final interview, okay, now that our group interview's over, they've gone their separate ways, and we've looked at our DISC personal concepts, and we've compared them to any applications and resumes that we had, okay, for these outside salespeople that showed up to our group interview, and we talked to them. And they looked the part. Okay, and I'm real serious about that. We don't want to be bringing agents on to my team that don't look the part. Okay, they need to look professional, present themselves well, be articulate. I need to be able to understand them, let's put it that way. So once I made that decision, we'll phone back and just the agents that make that final cut. Okay, now, the DISC personal concept, I want to talk about that here real fast. That is just part of the puzzle. By no means is it a litmus test. If an agent's not a high D or a high I, it doesn't mean that they're not going to get consideration for working with me. Matter of fact, that could be an absolute mistake. We've had some agents in the past that were awesome that had very little D or I in their personality. So I want to be really cautious about making that a litmus test. But what it does do, if this person's a solid high S personality, then you know what? I'm going to look at their past track record. How have they done? What's their motivation? What's their personal situation? And look at that side of it a little bit, probably a little more than maybe I would for somebody else. And I've learned some hard lessons on that because it told me that, you know what, I need to look at everybody's past track record, their personal experience, their personal situation right now before I just bring them on. And the over-the-phone interview that we just conducted with these people gives us some insight into that. I don't want to bring them back into my office if I can do it over the telephone, right? So the over-the-phone questions, which we looked at in the last part of this series, were designed to give us the measure, peace of mind, that this is the real estate agent that we think they are. Okay, and if it's not, we got to flush them out. So one big aspect of all this is that sometimes the way that we do things attracts real estate agents who can't make it on their own or who are in a very, very desperate situation personally. Now, let's face it, if I'm giving out leads and appointments, it only makes sense that agents out there who are struggling right now financially, they're having a hard time paying their own bills, maybe even behind on their bills, they will say, look, if I could just get my hands on the leads, I could get out of this situation. Okay, well, that's not always the case. Okay, I don't want to bring on a real estate agent, neither do you, that's in a financial desperate situation that cannot get by for the next 3 months until they get a closing. We need to be realistic about this and not so optimistic. Okay, it could very well be 90 days before they ever see a dollar. And during that time, they're going to have to shell out money for gasoline, on the telephone, cell phone bills. So, you know, that makes it a little tougher, probably a lot more tougher for many of us to make sure we get the right people. But be slow to hire these guys. That's why the initial process here is taking us basically 3 sessions, 3 hours, to discuss just getting to the point of hiring the person. Okay, we want to be slow to hire, and then you want to be quick to fire. Okay, if they're not a profit center. All right, so good. After that phone interview, and you select the best agents who really buy into your vision, you want to invite them back to the office for a formal introduction to the team, offer them the position to join your company. Okay, so when you do that, and I like to get them back in the office after I know they're the one, and I'll walk them around, personally walk them around and introduce them to every staff member on the team. Okay, and just have that introduction, makes them feel connected and a part of what we're doing. Okay, and that's important to me on a real estate sales team, that there be some connection and buy-in. And I do that, and then I will sit down with them at the table, look over the paperwork that we're going to take a look at right now. Okay, so after they accept the job, the agent will sign a letter of intent to transfer a license. Okay, it's unlikely that they're going to be able to, for the agents that are active, that they're just snap your fingers and boom, they're moving their license over at that second in time. They may have some transactions that are ongoing, listings that need to be dealt with, and that sort of thing. So you've got to have systems and plans in place to deal with that. So to start the process, a letter of intent to transfer a license, I'm okay with. Okay, and then the agent's going to sign an employment contract. Okay, with a start date, and it's going to say that this contract is void if the agent's not starting on this particular date. Right. The agent is given the Success Now system, which is their upstart initial training systems. That includes the audio tapes and DVDs that you got when you joined the Platinum program. Buyer benefits presentation, seller benefits presentation, the inside sales training CD with me, James, Craig on it, and the outside sales agent manuals. Okay, and they're biggie. Also, there's an office and policies and procedures manual. Okay, then the agent is scheduled for the upcoming workshop, and everybody in Platinum are familiar with the workshops. So the agent's scheduled for that. That is a must-attend mandatory event, and they will definitely be fired from my business on the spot if they don't show up for that. All right, so let me make sure we're clear on that. That is one of those quick-to-fire issues. They have to be at that 3-day workshop. There is no, hey, I've got some closings, that I need to go to. Well, you better find somebody else to go to that closing for you. That closing is a one-time event. This workshop and this training is going to set you up to be successful and close lots of deals. Well, I got to be there at this one. Well, guess what? You ain't working here then. If you can't figure it out and make that deal happen, I can't use you. You're buying more into that closing, which all issues can easily be dealt with going in. Okay. So anyway, I'm just really big on that, and and many of you guys compromise your position as team leader here when trying to bring on agents. I just didn't do that. Every time I did, it never seemed to work out real well. All right. Maybe you guys got different stories. All right, the agent's scheduled for the upcoming training workshop, and all paperwork is turned into our office manager, human resources manager, whoever the person is at your office. Maybe it's just you, okay? And they're added to the contact management system, and an action plan is launched. Okay, so let's take a look at some of these items. The first one is a letter of intent to transfer their real estate license over. Okay, here's a kind of a screenshot of it, and a couple things that I don't like about this, and a couple things that I do. But I would say, I, John Smith, I'm in the process of having my real estate license transferred to Todd Walters and Associates, and I fully intend on joining this company. And my projected transfer date is, February 1st, 2010. During the interim, I agree to cooperate with Todd Walters and Associates in the following areas. Sign the sales agent agreement. We're fixing to take a look at that now. Complete the license transfer request documents. Read the agent manual. Complete the new agent training. Attend the next scheduled workshop. Order business cards. In other words, they need to be making an investment here into their business. And yes, I will move forward with them while they work on transferring their license, because the agents that I would most likely hire were people that were involved in selling something. and they weren't just sitting idle. Okay, so that's really important for everybody to know. All right. And then, of course, they would sign it, and we would, file that away. Now, one thing that I would recommend that you add here to this letter of intent is a statement that says, if agent fails to show up and join the company, there is a price that there is a dollar amount that they're going to pay you if they do not return any materials that you've given them for training. Okay, let's make sure you put that down, and that dollar amount needs to be stiff. I don't know, pick a number, $5,000, $10,000, but make it pretty substantial. All right, and then I think that'll give a little more comfort to some of you in doing that. We rarely had an issue there with that. Rarely had an issue. Okay, let's look at the independent contractor agreement, and let's run through that here real fast, okay? And Dana, if anybody has a question, hopefully everyone knows how the process works for answering these questions. And that is on your little control panel there on GoToWebinar. You can type in your question, submit it, and Dana is standing by. She can take your questions, and we'll run through some of those as we move forward here. All right, so if you have any questions about the independent contractor agreement or any part of this process that we're talking about as we move through it, why don't you go ahead and ask them. Okay, so I'm going to switch desktops here, and let's take a look at this independent contractor agreement. And everybody should have this. It's on the coaching site. I recommend that you use it. But I'm going to walk through some key points, and we're not going to read the whole thing because I know you guys can read, okay? But general stipulations are that we outline, standards of performance, their duties. We say that the compensation schedule, how they're going to get paid, is on a, is attached here. And the reason it's not pre-printed in the agreement is obvious. Not every real estate agent I would bring onto the team is the same. Some real estate agents would get a 15% referral fee on their own deals. Some agents might get a 30% referral fee on their own deals. Okay, some agent might get a bonus on their third transaction. Another agent might get a bonus on their second transaction. All right, so it was just important to me that the agents that would join our team would get what it is I need to get out of this relationship. Okay, proper incentives and things set up. Treating all of them the same, I just don't think is smart business. Flexibility is a key to success. Okay. All of the leads, clients, buyers, and sellers, every single one of them, they belong to me, okay, the team leader. You better use Agent Office, and all these leads need to be put on there and calendared. Scripts and databases, you got to be following our system, not your own. And I would be clear with real estate agents, look, if your way of doing business works so great, guess what? You and I would have never met the way that we did. Okay, so whenever that starts to come up, I put that to bed real fast. Okay, your system, it doesn't work real well. Okay, our system does. Okay, so you're working at our company on my team now, and we're going to do it this way. This is what we've established as best practices over the course of years and years and years and years and years. Millions of dollars in income. Okay, $1 billion in sales. So let's do it that way. Are you okay with that? Great. Right now, liquidated damages. All leads generated are sole property of me, and if for any reason this contract is terminated, we're going to have a liquidated damages here. So in other words, if the agent steals business from you, they run off, they take some leads, they go sell them somewhere else, they owe you money, and it ain't a referral fee. It's a nice big chunk of change. $10,000 for residential, $50,000 for commercial. So we were pretty clear on that. Let's talk about minimum commitment. You can do whatever you want to. I think Craig Proctor's minimum commitment was 1 year, but as my team grew and I began to experiment and test with different marketing and levels of this business, I changed from 1 year to 5 years commitment because I wanted to see which agents got nervous about that. Like if I can say it's a 5-year commitment, man. This ain't no 6-month, 1-year deal. When you sign this dotted line, you're telling me you're going to work here for 5 years. Okay, now, and you'll see there's really no penalty for early termination, but we make it clear that, hey, this is a 5-year deal relationship we're getting into right now. And I like that. That seemed to flush out some people that were looking for a temporary fix. Okay, but use your own judgment on that. Covenant not to compete. It's a small paragraph here, and I want to spend a couple of minutes on that. It's really difficult to enforce a covenant not to compete, as many of you know, okay, from your own personal experiences here. You have to be very specific. A general covenant not to compete is not enforceable. But if you say, hey, if you quit here, you cannot advertise on your sign, buy this home, I'll buy yours, or this, or that, or this, okay? If you are that specific, that's enforceable. But if you're general with your covenant not to compete, forget it. It's just not going to be able to be enforced by in a court of law. Okay, so we have a separate covenant not to compete addendum that we'll take a look at here in just a couple of minutes, right? Expenses, yep, you're paying for pretty much everything there, real estate agent, including insurance premiums and whatever else you decide is appropriate for your outside sales agents to be paying for. In Craig Proctor's office, they paid their RE/MAX fees. And in my office, when I was with RE/MAX, I worked a deal with my broker that the fees were very, very minimum, so I had no problem paying them. But that meant that if a real estate agent wasn't selling houses, then they didn't stick around long. Okay, so but whatever deal that you have there, you should enforce it. And my conversation with Craig recently, the last time we talked about this, was that if he believed that a good model would be the agent paying about $199, around a couple $100 a month, as a buy-in to the company, paying that money in, and they were on a 50-50 split, rather than taking, say, 10%, 15%, or 20% off the top of the transaction and then splitting it 50-50, and they had no monthly expenses. He seemed to think that was a little better model for a true independent contractor, and it fleshed out people who weren't full-time, serious players in the business. And he's right about that. So use your own judgment, and we encourage you to to try to make sure that your expenses are paid by other people rather than having to come out of your pocket. Okay, so let's take a look at the next page here on Schedule A, duties of agent and minimum standards of performance. Real simple. You got to come to all the meetings, and you better attend them. Group meetings, coaching calls. You got to sell at least 3 homes a month or 9 per quarter. Okay, launch follow-up activity plans for buyer and seller leads as outlined in the Agent Operations Manual. Agents required to turn in all listing paperwork per the checklist to the listing coordinator. All paperwork's got to be completed. Makes perfect sense. Attend all walkthroughs, inspections, and closings. Allow appraisers access when necessary. Present contracts to sellers and buyers within 24 hours. Turn in accepted contracts to our company within 24 hours. Prepare CMAs, listing presentations, deliver buyer profiles by fax, email, or mail. Follow up promptly before, during, after. All agents must turn in the HUD statement and all closing paperwork to the closing manager day of closing, and they're not getting paid until we have all the paperwork. That's a biggie. Okay, because our butt's on the line if we're missing a signed seller's property disclosure statement, for example, right? Okay. Communicate with your clients before closing, at least this time before closing, to go through everything to make sure it's all set up and done. Okay. All agents are required to attend team sales meetings, so there we go again on that. Other appointments should be scheduled at another time. Unexcused absences will result in no appointments, leads given for 1 week. Missing 3 of these meetings in a quarter is grounds for termination. So we were really clear on that. Okay. Payment to agent for commissions earned will be paid as a direct deposit into their bank account based on the following schedule. So we tell them right here how they're going to get paid. And we didn't pay commissions out once a month or once a week. We paid it out a couple of times a week, depending on when their closing was. And there were no checks written. It was direct deposit, and it was handled by a payroll company who issued the 1099s and handled all that stuff. So it was nice and clean, easy to take care of, and there was less of a management issue for me not being a very good manager type of person. Okay. All right. So here you go. Here's your guarantee. The make at least $25,000 in the next 12 months, or I'll pay you the difference guarantee is conditioned upon the complete adherence to all points in this agreement. So you miss a meeting, this deal's void. Okay. Failure of agent to meet all requirements, it's over. Agent must supply me with tax returns for the previous year within 5 days from the date of this agreement, or the guarantee shall become null and void. Now, here's something really interesting. I think that I had this USP running for, I don't know, 5 years straight. And over that 5-year time period, I probably hired about an agent a month if you average it out over the course of that year. Sometimes, I'd hire 4 or 5 agents in a month, but we would move on people that weren't doing a very good job, trying to find that 1 or 2 good profit center agent. And during that entire time frame, I had one real estate agent provide me with their tax returns for the previous year. That was it.
Todd,
so, yes.
We have 2 questions. You want them now?
All right. Yeah, let's take them.
Our first question is from Tom Shelby. He wants to know, should you be hiring all OSAs as contractors or make them employees? And if they're independent contractors, how do you require them to attend the meetings and still keep them as contractors?
Yep, that's a great question. Because and I think we all know the answer to it. If you can hire them as an independent contractor, okay, and put them on 1099. The problem is that if you start telling people what to do, and you've got an agreement like this right here, they will be considered employees. There's just very, very little you can do about that. Okay, so I think it's a gray area. I operated for years without any issues, but I would definitely carry workers' compensation insurance if it were me and I had a sizable team. No question. So you can hire them as ICAs, independent contractors, and have an independent contract agreement. Say it's an independent contractor agreement, but once you start making demands like this that they have to be somewhere at a certain time, then they become employees. So that's why we consulted with some attorneys, and we had some language in here that basically said, look, you need to attend training. Okay, you want to get better at it is what you do, and we weren't specific when the training was. Okay, so if you'll notice that when you look through this, we didn't say the training is on this day at this time and you've got to be there. Okay, we just said you got to get training, and if you miss more than X, then you're out of here. But I would look at them in the face and tell them you better be at every freaking meeting if you want to get leads. Okay, so that's pretty easy. You can see that the penalty was you'll just not get the prospects sent over. And that seemed to work okay with the authorities that we consulted with. But my gut feeling tells me that these people are more closely resemble and closely related to employees than they are independent contractors. So I would consult with an attorney on it as your team begins to grow to make sure you've got this situated properly. Now, the reason we want to avoid employee relationship with real estate agents is quite simple. Once they become an employee, then we're responsible for withholding taxes, and that's something that we just don't want to do, right? We don't want to have to pay 7.5% or more in Medicare and Social Security taxes to these on behalf of these quote unquote employees who aren't really employees. So if you're going to start doing that, then you're going to have to get paid from them. All right, just remember that on a monthly basis to cover that expense. Anyway, and it's going to probably result in less commission for them as well. So pretty interesting stuff. That's a really good question and an ongoing debate, and that's the best answer I got for you there, Tom. Take the next question, Dana.
The next question is from Mike Nichols. He wants you to back up on the expenses. He said he got a little confused on how the expenses were divided up with the buyer's agents, the company fees, the deal fees, and how the split was.
All right. I'm going to get there when we get into the pay plan, okay? But I will say this about the expenses, that we're telling the real estate agent that any expenses, such as but not limited to telephone use, personal business cards, board of realtor dues, E&O insurance premiums, home office supplies, super key, they're the agent's responsibilities. Same thing with mail and postage and personal computers, anything maintaining their own office at home. They got to pay for all that, okay? So in reality, the agent's paying for everything. And then when we get into the pay plan here in just a moment, that's when we can you can see what quote expenses might be coming out of the pay plan, right? That involve what we call cost of sales. All right, so let's keep rolling, then we'll come back to some questions here in just a couple minutes. Let's move down to Schedule B now that we got through the guarantee. Leads and appointments for agents, okay? All buyer, seller leads, prospects, and clients, they belong to me. Now, we said that on the front page, but you know what? We threw it in again since we were going to detail that a little bit more on this addendum or exhibit or whatever you want to call it, amendment. Agents have to track and report all of their comings and goings with these prospects, okay? If they aren't doing a good job of that, keeping their contact management system updated. So we let them know going in that there's a lot of prospects floating around here, and we've got to keep up with every lead. We don't want them to fall through the cracks, okay? Every lead represents business now, business in the future, referrals, et cetera. So we want to do a really good job of that for your benefit, agent, okay? And if you're not calling them back, you know, within a specific time frame, then you're going to probably lose that prospect. So we kind of work off of a 4-hour deal, you know, basically a half a day. If you can't get back to a new prospect within a half a day, then we're probably not going. We're either going to pull that back or give it on to somebody else. Okay, just can't let people go a day or two without getting called. And if you can't work on or with a particular client, hey, it can be passed on to another agent here on the team. Okay, there will be no in other words, if you get a lead, you're not going to call another agent on the team and make a deal with them. Like, hey, you know, I'll give you this prospect if you give me X. See, there's none of that going on. That undermines the integrity of our system that's worked really well for us. Okay, so and you don't want to get into letting your agents run and dictate how you do business, right? It makes pretty good sense. Okay, personal referrals. Personal referrals generated from personal resources outside the realty team's system. The agent gives a 15% referral fee. Now, here's why we came up with 15%. You and I would pay, no, here's a better example. If I sent you a referral and told you, hey, here's a guy moving to your area, pay me 25% when it closes on the amount of money that you get from this prospect. Okay, you know what you would say? Absolutely, no problem. We love paying referral fees because that means easy business for us. Okay, well, it's the same thing for the agents on our team, but the reason we went to 15% as a standard is because the agent now knows more than they did when they showed up. Okay, before they showed up to our office and to our team, they were who they were. They knew what they knew. Now they know more. They're more professional. They've got more knowledge, experience, discovery, and tools, systems to use to convert people to clients. You know, referral's not automatically a client, right? I think we all agree with that. So we help agents sell homes, sell more homes faster. So that warrants a little bit less of a referral fee on their own personal business, in my opinion. So we came up with 15%. It didn't seem to be an issue. But again, we allow for flexibility on that depending on the agent that we may hire. Okay, so you can use your own judgment when it comes to that sort of thing. Okay, minimum sales for agents. And we talked about that a little bit ago, but yes, there are minimum standards here. Got to at least sell 9 homes a quarter. If you're not, meeting these minimum standards, you're subject to termination. Okay, and we lay that clearly out here. What this whole, we'll call it probationary period, without saying probationary period. Okay, agents shall pursue selling commission of 3.5 on buyer agency transactions following our system, and our listings are going to get put on the market at 7%. We're going to get 4. Okay, so that was how this agreement was structured. Okay, and they knew right off the bat what our company's policy is on getting paid. It's in writing. This is how we get paid. This is how much we get paid. This is how much you get. All right, now let's take a look at this pay schedule here, pay plan. Okay, and let's look and see what we were doing here when I sold the real estate company. Failure to collect fees. The agent's responsible for collection of all fees and commissions agreed to by buyer and/or seller at closing. If the agent fails to collect the fees due our team at closing, the amount of deficiency, if any, will. Okay, this is smart business. If you have a real estate agent who's responsible for collecting your fee, okay, well, guess what? They're responsible for collecting. There were times where the seller signed a contract, a listing contract, agreeing to pay us $695 transaction fee. It's in the contract. Well, at the closing table, the real estate agent, the listing agent, the agent on our team, the outside sales guy, failed to collect the fee. It's just like they pretend it wasn't there or it didn't exist or they forgot about it. You know, whatever the reasons are. Okay, well, guess what? That money's coming out of your commission, dude. It's that simple. So once you have that conversation up front, or it happens one time, it never happens again. Okay, the agents know that if they're responsible for making sure this money's there so that the company gets paid, right? Like they'll make sure their money's there. Now, that may mean that you have to get the agent's buy-in into collecting ancillary fees or transaction fees or marketing fees or whatever it is you're doing by giving them half of it, for example. But they're responsible for making sure stuff gets collected if you're turning these agents loose on that sort of thing. So got to be on the HUD. If it's not, they owe the money. All right, now, you can see it says right here, Realty team shall receive 100% of any transaction retainer fees collected on buyer-seller transactions. This was a test that we ran that, in my opinion, I didn't like it. It didn't work that well. It created animosity, and especially when we're telling them they're responsible for collecting it, and it's such a high number anyway, and value becomes an issue. So I wanted to let everybody know on this webinar right now that if it was Craig Proctor, myself, the outside salesperson would get half the money. The test for the company to keep it all, we're talking transaction fees, marketing fees now, did not work as well as if you were splitting it with your agent. Okay, so good stuff. All right, so that gives everybody a really good idea of how the independent contractor works. Now let's go take a look at the pay plan. I think I'm going to have that here on a few slides from where we are right now. So hang on one second here. You know what? Let's do this. Let's get into this pay plan and as well as the confidentiality and non-compete agreement, okay? So let me go back to my big screen here now that everybody's following along on my desktop. Okay, so pay plan's real simple. We don't need to get into a lot of hoopla there, but there should be a separate addendum, and the pay plan is whatever you decide it's going to be. I think we all in Platinum work on a 50% cost of sales model, okay? So other options, 15% referral fee to the agent on any of their own deals from their own sphere of influence, all the way up to 25%, depending on the agent that you're bringing on, okay? Any upfront transaction fees, split them, okay? You have an option of having your real estate agents pay you every month to be there, say $199, but I would definitely make sure that your MLS expenses and E&O insurance covered expenses are being covered by this agent every month, right? And you could even take 10%, 20% off the top of the transaction and then split money 50-50 like a franchise fee. Here's a good example. I've talked to some Platinum members recently that are leaving the franchise company brokerage that they're at, and they're on a 90-10 split with their real estate brokerage. Okay, so, and they have 3 buyer's agents. So my point to them was, look, when you leave, everybody's used to paying 10% anyway, so I would continue to do that. Take 10% off to every transaction, put that back into your business or investment, or research and development, operational account, your own pocket, however you want to do it, but continue that pay plan. And now that 10% instead of going to your broker is going to go to you. Okay, so That's about all really I think we need to get into on the pay plan there. So let's take a look at this confidentiality non-compete agreement. This came from Todd Weiss, and the reason is because he had some issues, so he had an attorney kind of expand it and deal with it. And confidentiality is a big component here. Like if you just have your agreements set up as a non-compete agreement, when you get in front of a judge, you can run into some issues with, how should we call this, restricting their ability to make a living. And that's kind of the way I've heard it put and read it in legalese. But confidentiality when you join a company because of practices and the way your business operates, that is definitely something that judges and juries, they don't like because it's theft. So, okay, let's make sure we're clear on this. Non-compete means that you are keeping that person from making a living and expanding if they leave your company, right? So you become really the culprit here. But if you can incorporate confidentiality into your non-compete agreements, all right, now you've got better leverage because if they leave and they start using your stuff against you, now they're the bad guy, okay? So really, really important how these are written up. So this is a very good and has been proven to be enforceable agreement that was done up for another platinum member, and I liked it to the point where I wanted to bring everybody's attention to it. And it is posted on the coaching site under Outside Sales Agent Recruiting Systems, Platinum Recruiting Systems, okay? And you can see the restrictive covenant here, which is a period of 2 years that says you can't even go out there and sell freaking real estate, okay? So within a 30-mile radius. Now that's a pretty important detail, right? I don't know, that's tough to stomach for some people, but hey, if you can't make it here, and this is the best there is, why do you even want to go leave to sell real estate? If you want to go leave and sell real estate, and it's working for you, that means that this is all you know. You're going to take our stuff and use it against us. Okay? So I would test this, use your own judgment on how you want to do it, but confidentiality, non-compete agreement, this is a big deal. You guys are the top real estate agents in the country. Everybody on this webinar right now listening to the sound of my voice every platinum member falls into the category of being in the top 1% of real estate agents in North America, right? That's pretty amazing. Top 1%, that's what this program is. It's only for those people, okay? And, which means you got something special. You're pretty good at what you do, and it needs to be protected. The materials, much of it is copyright. A lot of it I developed through trial and error with Craig Proctor's help. And Dan Kennedy's written a bunch of marketing material for us that we've taken and even optimized from there. So this is real proprietary stuff. And I think you don't want to getting it into the wrong hands, people copying it and using it against you. Okay? So, again, that's why this is important. Needs to be talked about and announced and worked on. And I've had real estate agents over the years in the Platinum program, team leaders call me up and say they walked into their office with their 6 team members and put a document like this underneath their nose and said, here, sign it. And a couple of them said, I'm not signing it. And say, well, we're done. And they left. And that's a pretty interesting or neat position to be in, which is one of, just no fear. And I think the closer you can get to being in that position where you are not held hostage by people that sell your product, they depend on you and your systems, the prospects, the leads. It's just a good win-win relationship. But if they leave, you know what? It's going to temporarily have an impact maybe on our cash flow until we get somebody to replace them. But you cannot operate your business from a position of fear. That is just not a good position to be in. So that's why we're doing this series, so that none of us are ever again in that position. We're always hiring, okay? And one of the biggest complaints that I would get from agents on my team was the fact that I was always hiring. Todd, aren't you happy with me? And I would tell him, say, dude, I like you a lot. We've had some great times. But the business over here is it's a profit center. The bills have to get paid over there. And you know what? Next month, it's going to take $100,000 to keep the doors open here. And you're not responsible for paying that. I am. So I like you a lot, but the bills still have to be paid, right? So what would you do if you were in my position? That's right. You have to make sure they get paid, which means that if there's other salespeople out there that can do a really great job of helping make that happen, I want to know about them. We're going to bring them on. Okay, so if you're nervous or scared, well, you know what? That's a problem. Just continue to work hard and get better at what it is that you do. You have an obligation to do that anyway. So those are some of the conversations that we would have with the real estate agents, and when they see us always looking for better people. But hey, that's why there's a contract. Listen, you signed an employment agreement. I'm agreeing to give you. What are you so nervous about, agent? I'm agreeing to give you training, coaching, appointments, leads, everything that I've used to personally make an awful lot of money selling real estate. It's been given to you. We even signed an agreement that I was going to give it to you. All right? So we have that in place. So what's the problem? And, it's kind of like ball players, right, on a professional level who really enjoy playing the game. They don't want to miss out on their playing time. They got a contract. They're getting paid if they do a good job, and they get incentives and things like that if they do better, right? So that's why they work so hard. They still go to practice. They condition themselves outside of practices, spend time with one-on-one with the individual coaching and coaches so that they continue to improve their game so they can command the spot on the team. All right, so same thing should be happening with your business as you bring people on and if you have that sort of value in place. Dana, do we have any questions before we continue to move on?
Yes, we have one from Mark Gastineau. He says, how do you notify your agents in agent office when leads are coming in, since they're always out in the field selling? In his experience, the contact management system, he has to wait until they either get back home or they go into the office. And do we do anything additional to send them the leads?
Absolutely. Great question, Mark. And here's what I would do. The contact management system is where all of the prospects go, but it's not the only place they go. Okay. The agent, for example, if they've got a BlackBerry or an iPhone, they're going to get that prospect on their text to them or email to them, so they have it in their hand at the same time that it's showing up in agent office. Okay, possibly even before. Okay, the database manager's responsibility on your team is clear. It's to make sure that every prospect is getting from the office directly to the best agent to call them back and deal with them and help them within seconds. Okay, getting it into agent office happens within minutes. Okay, so that's kind of how it works, and this way the agent, the outside salesperson, has the peace of mind that when he gets a prospect on his iPhone or BlackBerry to call back, he also knows that it's on agent office. Okay, so he can work from his laptop remotely, which is what most real estate agents did on our team, or when he gets home, the agent is right there. Okay, I like salespeople, real estate salespeople, to have a laptop, not so much a desktop, that goes with them wherever they go, including being able to connect to the internet, log on to our contact management system anywhere in the world. Okay, so that's the way it works for most businesses out there, and that's the way it worked on our real estate sales team. If they have to wait till they get back home to their desktop, there's no reason to operate that way at this day and age. Okay, so but the iPhone, BlackBerry deal, that's how it works. So they've got the prospect there, and it's in agent office pretty much at the same time. Okay, depending on how many leads are coming in and how busy the database manager is. Now, with that, let me add this. Database manager, person responsible for getting the leads in, getting them out to the agents. Very, very. That's the person you work intimately with. day in and day out, checking leads, how many we got coming in, what do they look like here, and researching it. That's a very, very important role. Okay, I don't want to downplay that person's job at all. That is one of the most important people on your team. And when they're not giving out, say, new leads, they are moving leads from one person to another. That's exactly right. They give out new leads, and at the same time, they're looking at the schedules, and they're taking leads away from real estate agents because there's no notes or they haven't been called. Their job is to make sure that we are following up with prospects, okay? And if they're not being followed up with, they have the ability, the authority, to make sure that somebody else calls them back, okay? So that's part of that job, and that's how you can get really efficient and productive, at growing your real estate team. Another question there, Dana?
No, there's no more questions right now.
All right, good. All right, now let's take a look at what happens after the agent signs off on all the contract paperwork, independent contractor agreement, confidentiality, and non-compete agreement. We launch an activity plan in Agent Office. We take the agent as a contact, set them up in our contact management system, and launch an activity plan, a checklist. And the checklist is followed by our human resource person or office manager or whoever is responsible on your team, could be you, for making sure that everything is set up properly with this particular agent. Okay, so here's a good example of a new agent, quick start, activity plan. Set up the agent's license, make sure they got their super key, working here, make sure they've got a voicemail extension, they're on our roster, their team profiles added to our website. Let's see, they're set up in the FMLS systems. They get set up on the e-checks for direct deposit if that's who's the handling our money and disbursement of income. They get the agent emails. Now, if you don't know what those are, you need to get your butt to a workshop to get your agents there because we spend time talking about the communication process with clients. And so I think that every real estate agent should have a backup Plan B system for communicating with their clients, and that's what the agent emails are. We're not going to get into that right now on this webinar, but the agent needs to get those on their system so that they can be sent directly from them. Add the agent to our appointment roster. In other words, the inside sales guy at that time was Ted Zimmer. He wants to make sure that they've got them set up. They know where they work, what they want, what they like, what they don't like, so he can get those leads there to them after he books an appointment. Okay, and of course we get some money from them. Okay, for insurance. So that's a good breakdown there, I think, of that an activity plan. And then the agent gets training materials. And we put a plan together on what's going to happen next. So let's just run through the initial training materials that they get, okay? I like to call it kind of an introduction seminar, okay? This is a series of videotapes, audio tapes, and workbooks. Okay, the agent needs to go through these materials four times. I'm right up front, 4 times. Now, do any of them do it? Some do. 4 times before the workshop, at least once a week thereafter for the first 3 months of employment. Okay, this will ensure you take the giant leap in your business toward success. Now, if you want to make sure they do it, test them. Just put together a little test. If you've been to a workshop, you know that at the end of each day, we have a test that we go through, okay, to see if you've been paying attention and know the material. It's a simple test. It's just a recap of what they were given. Okay, so that's the best. That's a good practice right there. Okay, and this includes the workshop books, the listing presentation audio CD and training DVD, buyer presentation audio and DVD, dealing with buyer and seller objections audio CD, me on the telephone actually making calls, converting prospects to appointments, and Craig Proctor on the phone converting prospects to appointments. I would add to this the inside sales agent training CD that everybody gets in their initial package. And you could probably replace the Craig Proctor deal with that. But I definitely think having taped conversations of you on the phone, converting prospects to appointments, an hour's worth of them, very valuable. Okay, I can't stress that enough. Okay, now, the workshop, boot camp, it's 5 days long. That's right. We did it every month for 5 days. You guys have experienced the first 3 days. Okay, that's what the workshops are right now for Platinum members and their outside sales agents. The last 2 days was policies and procedures and agent office training. Okay, but it ran 5 days, 3 full days, 2 half days. Okay, and so that gives everybody kind of an idea of how that training system works and what I suggest you have. Okay, now what? Okay, I've got my training stuff. I've signed agreements. I know when the next workshop is, next meeting. Now what do I do? Okay, well, we would brand the agent via email. So they would get their own email signature. For example, maybe, Janice at toddwalters.com, for example. Confirm that the agents have their agent office username, password, so they can log in and use that system. Okay. We make sure they're set up there as an assistant in agent office. And then the agent has to set up their activity plans, the plans that they would be utilizing and launching, their listing plans, their buyer plans, their closing plans. So when we did our agent office training, them setting up their own plans was a great way to get them to learn the system really fast. Okay, so it's quite easy to do. And I recommend that every real estate agent on your team be using agent office, and the best way to get them to use it is not just watching, but actually doing it. So setting up activity plans with their name on them, great practice. Okay, and that's what that's all about. Getting the buyer and seller benefits presentations installed on their laptop. You guys know what a funky ordeal this is, right? At the workshop, we would actually have the DVDs there, okay, to load the benefits presentations on their laptop. Okay, that was one of the 5 days that we would do. Because if I didn't do it like that, I don't know if it's getting installed or not. I don't know. Who knows if even they know how to download from a CD onto their desktop, a benefits presentation. So we would just make sure that it would get done at the workshop, okay, just part of the process. And then, of course, any business cards we would take advantage of as well. Now, the agent office activity plans, let's expand on those a little bit more. Answer a few questions about that. Have some fun with this. The agent would set up their own office plans, just like I mentioned to you, in agent office or top producer, whatever your contact management system is that you're using. And the plans that they would set up would be a closing plan, one for buyers and one for sellers. That is just a checklist of the activities that they're responsible for. Okay, we didn't have a closing coordinator the last several years of my real estate company because we were able to systemize that process and eliminate that employee position. And much of that you guys know about, and it's available to you on the coaching site, and I can consult you on that one-on-one. Okay? And I don't think your outside salespeople should have a closing coordinator. You can have one if you want to do that, and you can pay it out of your pocket, but I definitely would not be funding a closing coordinator for my outside salespeople when it can easily be systemized. Okay, just my opinion. Got it from Craig Proctor. Again, copied him. He never had a closing coordinator. All right. Listing plans, new listing follow-up, an agent email update plan, ongoing listing follow-up after the first 30 days, and, of course, what we would do, because there would be some different things for vacant properties, which include you got to go check on that freaking house, dude. You're going to put a vacant property on the market. You need to know that you now are responsible for doing a spot inspection on that property every month. Okay, you cannot, you don't want a seller coming into town and there's a bunch of freaking newspapers piled up in the front yard or cobwebs in the kitchen, the grass not mowed. They're relying on you to be property manager in some respect on vacant property. So that's why we have a separate plan for vacant properties. That's right. Now, all of these activity plans, let me repeat, all of those activity plans, they're available for you on the coaching site under the operation category, Platinum Operation Systems category on the coaching side, okay? They're all right there for you. All right, so Dana, are there any questions at this point?
Yes, we have one question from Chris Egan. He says, if the database manager sends a lead to your OSA and the OSA is following up with the lead and setting the appointment, isn't that, in a sense, he's doing the ISA work? And should an outside sales agent be doing an inside sales agent function?
Okay, prospects are coming in all kinds of which way. All right, so let's be real clear on this. The database manager, they're the office manager. They're me. They're exactly what I would be doing if I was, personally involved in giving leads out. So a prospect comes in. Let's say it comes in off of for sale sign, and the agent's name and number is not on the for sale sign. Some teams it is, and I recommend you test it. Depending on who the agent is. But sign call, okay, the database manager, they get that prospect. They get it in the agent office, and sign calls will go directly to outside salespeople, not to an inside person. Okay, they were just now business prospects. Inside sales would spend their time calling back future prospects, right? So that would pretty much go to them. Now, if it was a prospect to come in on a list, like, for example, a foreclosure distress sale ad running on pay-per-click, okay, the database manager gets that lead, and they put it on agent office, and they send it over to the inside sales person. Well, when the inside salesperson, when they book an appointment, they're instructed to give the lead directly to the best agent. But they work with the database manager on it to make sure that, okay, who's the best agent for this lead, who's available, who's not available, where does it need to go. And we were very careful with giving leads out. And you just want to, whenever you start getting into hiring inside salespeople, they work with your database manager intimately in getting these prospects out. Okay, so I'm not so sure how there's an overlap of anything, an outside sales agent, inside sales agent's job routine, but that's just how the process works. So if I'm not explaining it well enough for anybody, you can email me, but to me it's literally that simple, and you want it to be as simple as possible. When your business gets big enough and it's necessary to have an inside salesperson, they get their marching orders from your database manager, okay? The office manager, whoever's responsible for handling the leads. The database manager decides who gets the lead, inside or outside, okay? Plain and simple. If they give delegate a lead to an outside sales guy, they're responsible for making sure the lead's getting called back. If they delegate a lead to an inside sales guy, they're responsible for making sure the inside sales guy's calling back the lead. So, that's that person's job. Very, very important. Your highest paid employee, no question about it, should be the most important job there is, in my humble opinion, based on 20 years of experience, 15 of it with Craig Proctor. So hopefully that answers Chris' question. But if not, you zip me an email, and we'll deal with it off the call. Okay, let's take another question here, Dana.
Right now, that's all our questions.
Okay, good. Fantastic. Well, that pretty much wraps up part 3 of the webinar series. Okay. Now, when we get into the next series, the final and concluding part of hiring the right people, okay, and setting them up as profit centers, okay, we're going to discuss how you can predict sales with these folks. Okay, the best agents getting the best leads, specific policies and procedures for this guy, continuing training, and, of course, tracking and being results-oriented. That's very important. What are your best practices? Are they being carried out? How do you even know if it's happening? Okay, that management aspect of this, okay, for your outside sales agents. So that's the final concluding part of this series, and I'm looking forward to that. So everyone should get an email notice about when that is, coming up very soon. And I want to thank you on behalf of Craig Proctor and everybody associated with Platinum, North America's premier real estate coaching program, no question about it. And you know what? It's always a pleasure to be able to take all of this information, all these goodies, break it down, and just kind of walk through it. And hiring people to come and work for you, it's always going to be an issue for you. It's never going to go away. It's going to be part of what your business does. Every business out there relies on people leverage to sell. And the better people that you have on your team that can sell, the more money you're going to make. I'm just telling you, that's just the way it's going to work. So if you want to do really well, You want to have people that can take a prospect and they can run with it, all right? And you want to build a profit center around that individual, okay, and leverage off of them for as long as it lasts. It may last for a year. It may last for 20 years, okay? So all the best as you move forward in putting that together. So with that, that's going to wrap up our webinar for today, and look forward to continuing with part 4 coming up very soon, okay?